Second Cup is brought to you by Roswell Park Comprehensive Care Center.
Hi there, good morning. It is 8 o'clock on the start of your Tuesday. Glad you're with us for Second Cup. Welcome in, welcome in, welcome in.
Good morning.
Glad you're all with us.
Oh, I gotta click over to here.
My internet is not working, and this is driving me nuts, and...
Do you want to tell them about your song?
Okay, so yesterday Logan comes in, and it's funny because... Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, nice. That's a good idea.
So yesterday I had that David Muir greeting for Katie.
Yes.
And, you know, I knew that Katie has a tendency to be a little nosy. And so when I was planning this out, I said, Katie is going to look in the script and try and figure out what's going on
Well,
here.
I just wanted to make sure I didn't have to do anything or read anything and knew all the words. I haven't been here for a long time.
So yesterday in the script, I put some dummy copy in there.
Yeah, fake script. You faked me out.
And I knew this was going to happen. So I was like, I just wanted to be 2 steps ahead, Katie. And so Paul heard that.
Which led to a song that Paul's been singing to the baby now.
So funny.
It goes, Uncle Ed is 2 steps ahead. Watch what you said, because he's 2 steps ahead.
It's true.
And the baby's like loving it. He's like, ah.
And then he's dancing on Paul.
Yeah.
That's the
It was
funniest
so
part.
cute. Everything's a song in our house now.
Yeah, I totally get that.
Do a lot of entertaining. Oh, Marguerite likes our matching. Thank you, Marguerite. Yeah, we really nailed it today. That was a good one. The tie.
Got it. Okay. Thank you so much. I'm just checking my email here because, you know, you're trying to get information from the city and it's damn near impossible. And
Yes?
it's just impossible.
Uh-huh.
So you got to go through all these different departments. Like, help me help you here.
Okay, well, let's talk about
the shooting. How about that?
Okay.
You want to talk about that
Yeah,
first?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And then we'll do the financial stuff. I like the financial stuff, but we can talk about the shooting.
Okay.
More
well,
timely.
I think this is really important, especially given the climate that we're in right now when it comes to politics. We are now learning 2 people were shot and hurt at Canal Side last night after the shooting, literally right where people hang out. I mean, this was 8 o'clock last night.
So that is, yeah, you know, it's always scary when something like that happens in a really busy place.
Right.
I mean, it's anytime it happens, right? No matter where it is. But yeah, that's scary. There's a lot of families down there. A lot of people walking the waterfront, just, you know, checking out the summer stuff.
So 8 o'clock last night, these 2 people were shot by 2 people, according to police, who they say targeted the victims. I want to show you their pictures here. Buffalo police putting out these 2 pictures of what appear to be people running in the area. So these 2 pictures are said to be the people connected to the shooting. Now, we heard from Buffalo's acting mayor, Chris Scanlon, last night, about 11 o'clock after the shooting, who said, you know, essentially, this is one of those areas that is patrolled and highly patrolled by Buffalo police on foot. And what he said is there are more patrols in this area than there are in other parts of the city. In fact, he would argue that this area in particular is one of the highest patrolled areas. Which begs the question, what is the impact of these foot patrols? Is there an impact of these foot patrols if there is a high number, if there is, in fact, that high patrol volume, is it impacting violence?
So James is saying, how terrible. Do we know if there was a motive? We don't. Well, what we know is the police said it was a targeted shooting. So then you kind of think maybe people know each other. You know what I mean? It's not something that's completely random. So was there a motive? You know, who knows? But people likely knew one another is what the police were saying. And, you know, I don't know. I don't know if, I don't know. Well, first off, even if you're on foot, you can't be everywhere at once. So maybe they're just not in that area. You know, they may be over there. I don't know.
I guess my point is more the prevention. You know, the idea of this community impact unit, this foot patrol unit, it's supposed to cut down on violence. We're supposed to prevent violence. The idea is that these police are supposed to be visible to make the community feel safer and to continually monitor. But is it fulfilling its objective? And I don't know the answer. I mean, these are just rhetorical questions, really.
I don't know either. Right. And, Robin says, could it be guns in kids' hands? There's so many things behind all of this. So, maybe you would say, okay, foot patrol, is there an answer or is that a solution? Then somebody else would say, well, it doesn't really matter because people are going to get their hands on guns no matter what. There's so many aspects to that issue.
100%. Julie says that was really bad timing for him to announce that. Rachel says you can't do anything anymore. Too much gun violence. Shonda says, glad we went to the Liberty Hunt on Sunday. Saturday, rather.
It's disconcerting when it happens, like, in a really, like, a busy place. Again, disconcerting when it happens anywhere. But, like, when it happens in a place where there's a lot of kids and there's a lot of families, it's just a little scary. And 8 o'clock is not late.
No.
It's late for us, but...
Well, and this is Julie's point, right? So Julie says it was really bad timing for him to announce that. Then Julie says, it's only one shooting. We're good. But...
Well, and Katie's saying you can't stop somebody who wants to commit a crime. See, there's so many things that come into play.
Honestly, I'd be interested to hear from Buffalo Police or the former Buffalo Police Commissioner Joe Gramaglia. And here's why. Not because he's, been forced out by the acting mayor, but I'm interested in hearing from him because his main thing was stopping gun violence. Now, I should point out, contextually speaking, there has been a reduction in gun violence. We heard that from the governor over the last couple of weeks. But how much of that had to do with Gramaglia's plans to mitigate gun violence and guns on the street and to reduce gun violence on the streets as opposed to what's happening right now under a new administration?
Kim says, my opinion on foot patrol, you're putting officers at risk in this day and age. Rachel says, everybody uses guns to handle everything these days. It's tragic. Mark hasn't been downtown in a few years because he doesn't trust it. Cindy doesn't think foot patrol is as effective as other things.
Joe says you can definitely tell there's been less gun violence.
I have to say, just from my perspective of working in news for all of these years, you can tell.
Yeah.
You can tell there's less gun. Because I remember when I was working at my old station especially, we were reporting shootings often, and I just feel like we don't have, do you feel the same way?
I wonder if we're just not hearing about them.
And that's also possibly true, but we were reporting them because people were injured and we would always get information on that. And so I still feel like we usually get the information. I don't know. And, that's just a perspective that I have from having been here, however many years.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and as I mentioned, I mean, the governor even put out the statistics recently that there was a reduction in gun violence here in the city, which is a good thing.
Yeah, for sure. Boy, I can't stop sucking down water
Oh
today.
my God, I know.
How are you staying cool today? It is toasty out there.
It is going to be a summer scorcher.
You know what? And I think a lot of people take their kids or, you think about, should I bring my kids, whatever. But as it gets warmer, sometimes they just want to go run around the playground.
Yeah.
How about what that guy said today? They should be drinking like a liter of water in an hour or something like that, a quarter of a gallon or so. You got to keep those kids drinking hardcore.
Oh my gosh. Make sure that you are heading out the door with a water bottle today. And just to, I guess, to wrap up these comments, the conversation, because it continues to come in. As a society, Lori says, I think many have become desensitized to it all.
Sad. Yeah.
So.
And like I'm saying, it's that you see this back and forth, like Noreen saying it's not the police, it's the guns. That's what has to change.
And I'm certainly not blaming the police by any means. I'm questioning what the impact is, could be, or was.
Interesting.
Take that tie off. Girl, I know.
It's so hot.
It is warm.
So, hey, John, I was looking for that script that had the statistics about the finances. Do you know what show that was in? I looked in the 5 really quick, but I didn't see it. Was it the 5:30 or the...
I think it was in the 6. It was in the...
That's like the one show that I couldn't remember which one. The 6B block. Okay, because I want to read that one. And I didn't remember the stats off the top of my head.
Listen to this. People who think that they are going to be financially secure have to be making $100,000. That's what the majority of people are saying.
That's what they say. Right.
Right.
Okay, here we go. Here
Now,
it is.
but listen to this. A third of people don't think that they will ever be financially secure.
Right. Okay, so 45% of Americans think they need to make $100,000 a year or more to feel comfortable. And then 45% also say they feel financial freedom making less than six figures. So we've got 45% that say they need to make 100,000. We've got 45% that say they're okay not making it. 77% of Americans say they don't feel financially secure.
Where do you fall into that?
Do you feel financially secure? That's a great question.
I know. I would suspect the majority of people would say no.
Yeah, let us know. Do you feel financially secure? And why?
Right.
Is it like because I've saved for my retirement, because I have a nest egg? Like what is it that makes you feel, yes, I'm good?
Shonda says that's not even enough, sadly, talking about $100,000. Tony says I make $80,000. It's not enough to live comfortably. John says $100,000 isn't what it used to be. And it's true.
Yeah.
I was looking at the census data because I was at this conference last week, and one of the things that we talked about in particular was the disparities between communities. So I went looking for, what the median household income was in certain areas over the last year, because I
Okay.
thought that would be kind of interesting to compare and contrast. So in Niagara Falls and Buffalo, the median income in the past 12 months, according
Household
to
income?
right,
Okay.
according to the U.S. Census and this is in 2023 inflation adjusted dollars,
Okay.
$48,000. It's a little bit higher in Niagara Falls, 48.5. But then I was like, okay, well, what is Ellicottville is like a small
Okay.
town. What could it be there? Median income there almost $90,000. So you got to have
it can be a little expensive down there.
you got to have a lot of money to live down
Well,
there.
so here's the thing. And so that's the household income, right?
Right.
So we're talking we could have potentially two people
Sure.
making that salary. Maybe someone's working full time, someone's working part time, or maybe you've got one person who is, working, somebody else is staying at home, or you're just a single person, whatever. It's really interesting. About 45%, and that's from 2 years ago.
From the 2023.
Boy, do I wonder how that would change this
Right.
year, and how some of those numbers would change this year. Just because we've been seeing in the past year, we know how much inflation went up, and then how people have been struggling to deal with it.
Okay, so here is
Let's see here.
here. This is Erie County.
Okay.
Median income by dollars in Erie County is $71,175.
In the county.
Correct, in the
Okay.
past 12 months. Now, you compare that, let's go by race. Here's that.
Okay.
This is even more
Tell me.
alarming. White people in Erie County are making almost $80,000, $79,298. Black people are making about half that,
Mm-hmm.
a little more than half, $41,319 median income.
And you know who else? Also, American Indian being listed here. I mean, we are so close to a reservation,
Sure.
too. We have such a high, American Indian population, and they make about half as well.
Okay,
41,000.
and then this is interesting too. Families with children under the age of 18 in the house, the
Okay.
median income, $91,000.
Well, when you think about that too, so we're talking households there, and then families.
right.
Children are so expensive.
I know.
You have to make a little bit
Yeah.
more money to be able to, Let's see what some people are saying here. So Diane said, 1 more month, I think we'll be financially fine. We live within our means. Pat says, I've been retired a year and a half. I live off my state retirement, Social Security. I don't live a fancy lifestyle, own a modest condo, have money invested.
That's like retirement. How do you, I mean, that you're living on a fixed income. That's difficult. And you've been watching a lot of Dave Ramsey, you were saying. Tell us, what's his
Watching
deal?
So much Dave Ramsey lately. Because I, again, have been up with the baby at
Yeah.
all hours, and I start watching this stuff and listening to stuff. And there are some people who argue that he's outdated now,
Okay.
with the way he looks at some stuff, and he would argue obviously otherwise. He's very interesting to me, and he's got this baby steps program. The biggest concept takeaway is you can't have debt. You got to pay off that debt. And, kind of one of the ways he suggests doing it is you start with your littlest. It's a snowball thing. You start with your littlest, pay them off. But then I was watching, because I start watching this, right? Then you start targeting all this other stuff. And there was a girl whose video popped up the other day. She was laying out the debt she had. She's probably about my age. I think she had a couple kids maybe. And she was listing out the debt that she had, and it was $38,000. And most of it was credit card debt, is what this girl was saying. However, she's like smiling, and she's like, if you're just seeing me for the first time, which I was, she's like, you're probably wondering why I'm smiling. She goes, that's because a year ago we were at 55 and I got it down to 38, a year or two ago, whatever. So she was like taking that steps of, getting rid of that debt. Like, it's just, I mean, it can be crippling for some people.
Well, hello, look at what your mom is saying. Inflation is a retiree's worst nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
And Lori, I'm barely getting by on Social Security disability.
Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous, Lori says. Thank goodness I have no debt. Howard says my house is paid for and I have upgraded everything prior to retirement.
See, and Sarah, this isn't, I think most of us are one bad event from disaster.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another thing. Like, again, if you follow, whatever this Dave Ramsey's plan, but he's got all these different steps. So one of them is having an emergency fund. It's having enough money saved up, like save $1,000 first, and then you want to like save up. But how many people don't have that?
Right, right. And how hard is it to even start saving in today's economy? This is an interesting comment from Danielle. Kids with student loans, difficult to live on their own. Sarah, $38,000 in debt is nothing.
Well, so that was credit card. I don't think she was counting her house. Yeah, because so many of us, if you have a house, you're way more in debt because you're paying your mortgage.
Yeah. And so
but
Sarah,
student loans, they're pricey.
Sarah makes a point though that she's a millennial, and I wonder if there's a generational difference between debt collection or debt accrual. Are Gen Xers or boomers more likely to pay it off faster than millennials, or are millennials more likely to pay it off?
So here's something Joyce says, better learn to make sacrifices. And I do think that is kind of like a takeaway from a lot of that stuff that I've been watching too, is like the best way to pay down a lot of that debt. I mean, if you want to do it fast, which like obviously it's recommended because then you're not paying your interest rates. If you're going to do that, this guy says beans and rice. He's like, you know what I mean? Look at your face. He's saying, don't go out to eat. You know what I mean? Don't be doing all that stuff. Like, lock it down for X amount of time, pay off that debt, and then you can do all those fun things.
I totally get that, because every time Russ complains about how high our credit card bills are because he spends so much money,
yeah, it's Russ.
We're always going out to dinner.
Well, but really, when you think about it, like, how much could you
we could save a lot of money.
Saving?
Hundreds.
I mean, we've had this we've had a very like frank financial conversations lately because we were setting up the baby's 529.
Smart.
And I'm like, we got to do this now because then it'll grow, whatever. But then you have to look at like, what can you put aside each month? Like, where do you put it? How do you do, because you can make all these different things for your kids, and you're trying, and you're like, how much can I even put into this? So it's a lot of it. But then like, you have to think about it. Like, if I didn't go out to eat one time a month,
put that extra money in the
put that money there.
I have a question. Is there a minimum, or do you just open this account and it's what's the benefit of having it?
Is there a minimum? So it grows. You can put money inside tax free, and then it grows your kid's education. Like, you put into like a target fund or something like that.
Right,
you pick
right.
your own investments. But
there's no minimum to have the account open.
I don't know if there's a minimum. It asks you could go open one for whoever, right? But then it has to be used for education.
That was my next question.
Right. Or if it's not, they just change the rules that part of it can be rolled over into a Roth.
Oh.
But not all of it.
Oh.
John, did you just make a ugh sound like you're so bored?
We're done.
We're done. I like what Joyce says, though. PB&J sandwiches aren't bad.
No.
Ramen noodles.
I could deal with that. Just a lot of salt, a lot of carbs.
Rachel says everything's so expensive. There's no reason for it.
Can we go back to the census for a second? Because I think this is also really
Hit me with more interesting things.
Okay. Where did that table go?
Oh, can we really? While you're looking that up, Shonda says don't watch Instagram because it looks like everybody's loaded.
Saw that.
Isn't that so true?
Yes.
Because you can make anything look nice for 10 seconds.
Oh, okay. Here's a good one. In Erie County, the median two-person family makes $83,000.
Across all of Erie County.
3-person families, according to the census.
Like with a baby, a child.
Sure.
Okay.
Let's say you, Paul, and Logan.
Logie.
$106,000 on average. Now, again, keep this in mind. People are saying that they don't feel financially secure unless they're making $100,000.
Well, and so the difference, I think, too, it just makes me think between a 2-person and a 3-person family, you have that huge income gap. And then we also think about how much older people are when they're having kids these days. And that kind of makes me think by the time you hit that 3-person, maybe you guys have been working for a little bit
Sure.
longer. And now you're like, okay, we're ready to have a kid because our, median income has gone up a little bit more.
Okay, how about this one? Here's a good one for you. We know that moms are typically the caregivers in many cases. And, we've heard this from the Western New York Women's Foundation, how difficult it is for moms to make a decision. Do you go back to work or do you stay out of work to provide childcare? A female householder with no spouse is making $48,000 on average. This is the median income. I shouldn't say on average. It's like the middle of the road. Compare that to a man, $70,000. Now, a woman who has a child under the age of 18, single parent, no one else except her baby, on average in Erie County, the median income, $36,000. A man in that same situation is making $62,000, $61,200.
Wow, that's a huge difference.
That is drastic.
So the thing, yes, and that's why there are some of those income-based programs for daycare. But we know, a lot of places have wait lists. It gets tough.
Right.
You've done all the daycare stuff. It's tricky to navigate that.
And I don't know how parents do. Honestly, I forget who I was talking to, somebody who's pregnant, and they were wondering or suggesting, kind of almost talking generally, yeah, I should get on a list now if I want to get into daycare. And I'm like, no, you should, actually. You most certainly should. You should. In fact, you're late. Right?
Yeah. Because when I was looking into it, we didn't even know what our plan was going to be. We didn't know if Logan was a boy or a girl. We didn't know anything, but I was weeks pregnant when I applied at places just to do it. Because if you want even the option, you've got to get it. You got to do it. So
Tony says, I'm a single man living in a house with an $80,000 income, and it's not living.
Interesting.
Marguerite, John will never give up his Disney trips. I agree, but please pay off last year's before taking another.
Now, John promised me that he paid off his Disney trip.
No chance I'm giving this up.
John, you said you paid off your trip.
Yeah, the trip is paid off. Credit card is paid off.
Yeah, so there you go.
There you go. So you have no debt.
Yeah, which means I could book another one. I'm good to go.
Sure, John. Yes.
Katie doesn't like my financial advice. It's fine.
You know what, John? I don't think you're as bad off as you led us to believe initially. I think you do a pretty good job.
I figured it out because I take advice from Katie. That's
Honestly, the most important thing,
Disney is not worth getting into debt. Jordan.
It's Jordan. For us, I think just the younger you are, the more you start, and if you start contributing to your 401k, it's just so important because then
Yes.
Oh, it's worth it. Because you're putting the money aside and
It's
you can
tax-free.
stick it into your 401k, and you kind of forget about it, right?
Yes, until you look at your paycheck and you're like, why do I have no money?
But
In the
you
long
will-
run.
right, you will eventually.
And you know what's been interesting to see? 401ks have been increasing, it seems, which is good because it was going down for a couple of months there, and that was a little concerning. Shonda says, first mistake, putting a vacation on the credit card. Why is that a mistake?
I'm gonna have to disagree there, Shonda. You get the Disney credit card, you get some points, you get some money that you can use throughout all of Walt Disney World.
Am I missing
Basically
something
free.
here? Why would you? How else do you pay for a vacation?
I'm assuming debit card.
So, right, you could do that. So, again, like I said, I've been watching all these videos, and again, some people think it's a little extreme how Dave, does his plan. But he really doesn't believe in credit cards and kind of says even if you pay it off each month, okay, that you're tempted to buy stuff that you wouldn't if you had to fork over the cash. And he's basically saying, people put it points, you think, I'm getting points, I'm getting this, but are you buying more than you would if I just hit, is it easier to boop for $200 or is
Yes.
it easier to fork over $200 and you're like, oh my God, it's $200.
Right.
So you know what, I don't know. And again, everybody has their own different things. I just I guess that would be part of the thing. And putting the vacation on the credit card, if you paid it off, I would live like that, but
Sure.
not everybody does, right?
Now, I wonder, are you saving now to pay for holiday presents. We're talking Christmas, Hanukkah. I mean, I know it's 6 months away, but
Yeah, what do they call it?
like the clubs, like
Yeah,
those
the club. What was it called again? Somebody's going to say it.
Savers
And I'm
Club
gonna
or
be
something like
yes.
that. My mom says if you pay off the card at the end of the month, credit cards are fine, and I think that's
I mean,
that's what we do.
I think that is okay. Again, there are people who would argue differently, but I don't know.
MB has a great question.
Wonder how many companies match contributions for 401ks like they used to. Yeah, I don't know. Make sure you're looking up your company's match, and you're hopefully at least putting
Christmas
that in.
Club.
Christmas Club, thank you. We couldn't come up with
I-
that. You know the club you save for Christmas? What's it called again?
Like the Savers
The
Club.
Savers Club. Yeah, like as long as you can get that match. Yeah, but I don't know the answer to that. You know. Oh,
I actually have done this.
this is a great idea. If you want something, put it in a cart, save it for 10 days. If it's still there, you really don't want it. Interesting.
You know what? Because I've questioned, do I need this?
I'm a big save for later on Amazon person.
So I'll put it in my cart and just not buy it
Mm-hmm.
because I figure it's like an impulse buy sometimes. Like, I just bought face cream, for instance. I just bought some eye cream and some
Kiehl's?
retinol. No.
A different brand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Expensive.
no, not even. It was
Okay.
like one was CeraVe. So it was like $25. The other was $40 for eye cream. I mean, like sometimes you need a little boost under here, right? And you want it to be a good boost. So you got to pay a little bit more.
I don't know what you're talking about. Neither one of us is bad. Yeah.
But in total, you're paying a little bit more. I did buy 2 bathing suits as well.
Did you need them?
I mean,
I do. I like to put stuff in the cart and I'll save it for later and then really think about if I actually need it or look for cheaper prices. I'm going to do some price tracking stuff now that I'm back here. But like, does anybody else use Rakuten or do you use anything kind of near Rakuten? Do you know Rakuten? I showed it to you. It's like an app and you can shop through that. And like, listen, are these companies tracking the way you spend and what you spend? Probably, right?
but is that the give up for the give and take?
Is that the give up for the give and take? And for me, I really feel like I online shop as it is. They're probably going to know what I'm getting anyways. I'm going to get targeted ads. So you can get cash back from shopping, and using that. Oh, Anita uses Acorn. Okay, I'm gonna look
the orange thing with the squirrels.
Acorn. Now, somebody else was telling me about another. Was it called like Fetch or Hound? Or, it was like a dog theme. I got to ask my hairdresser what it was again, because she was the one who mentioned it to me that someone said it to her. But like there are all these different apps that you can use, things that things that
So
you can do.
Rakuten gives you back money.
Cash back for different purchases.
And at certain times you can get more money, right?
Yeah, so like you can go look in, and I'll do a little story on it so I can show you guys like exactly. But you can go look in the app and like name a store, see if it participates with the app, and then see what their percentage off is. And the percentages off change. Like I've gotten 10%. It's not percentage off. It comes back to you in a check, like maybe 4 times a year or something like that.
Huh.
So like I've gotten 10% back for stuff that I bought sometimes.
Can I ask you a question? Do you pay taxes on that or
On the
Like
the
the-
Rakuten money?
yeah?
Probably.
Like I guess you've already paid the tax,
Yeah.
right? In theory.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or is that income or is that
Yeah,
just
I
a
don't really know.
savings?
I don't really know because it's not like it adds up to a lot. I guess is what I'd also say.
Yeah.
Because 10% off. Let's say you bought something for $50, you get $5. But sometimes
not
it adds up. You
nothing.
get like $20 back.
Yeah.
And right, it's better than nothing. But like it all depends on the day. Like different stores have different deals, different days.
Can I also ask a question? Is it worth it to do all this work for $5?
Well, if I'm going to buy it anyways, yes.
Okay.
If
Okay.
I'm not going to buy it anyways, and I'm just spending the money because there's a deal,
Rakuten is super easy because you'd be online shopping anyway, so you're still like it's not a different mode of buying something.
Right.
It's just like another app.
Unless
But-
if you look at it and you're like, what Lululemon, John loves Lulu. I don't know if they're
and I've gotten a couple 10%
Have
deals,
you
and it's
unlocked your-
oh,
Right.
it's unbelievable.
So, but
It's
that's
basically free.
there's the time when it might not be worth it. If like you're like, I love Lulu. Oh, it's 10%. I'll buy the extra 3 sweatshirts.
Yep.
2 sweatshirts. That's the trick.
They're paying you
John,
at that point. But-
John, the Disney Store and Disney Plus are on here.
Oh, don't tempt me with a good time, Katie. But with the can
Fetch,
returns,
thank you, Anita.
the amount of like Monster Energy drinks that I
Yeah.
have on a weekly basis, I've always thought maybe I should start bringing those back and getting some money back. But it's
The
such a hassle. It's
cans?
never, the cans. Like it's never like that's one of those things. That's
mean,
not
5
worth it, in my
cents.
Talk to Mankowski.
Seriously,
know.
you could just.
opinion. Make out like a bandit.
Fetch, Anita. Thank you. I knew it was a dog thing. I thought it was
Yeah.
What did I say? Like leash? I can't remember.
Something.
Fetch. That's what it was. And I've never used that one, but I want to look into it a little bit.
Listen, we've had a great conversation here. Appreciate you. We got to get the show on the road. Hope you have a great Tuesday. Stay safe and cool.
We could just chat all day, couldn't we?
We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye, guys.